Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with me, Errol Lawson. If this is your first time here, we want to welcome you. If you're an organizational leader or manager in church-based ministry, in business, in academia, then you're definitely in the right place. In addition to hosting the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast, I also offer one-to-one and group coaching for leaders and leadership teams that want to improve their effectiveness and become more productive and increase their performance. Inspirational, entertaining, and engaging keynote talks that will help shift the mindset of your leaders and bring about the organizational culture that you really desire. For more information or to book a free, no obligation consultation to see whether we're the right fit for each other, simply drop me an email today at errol@errollawson.com, and I'd love to have a chat with you. Thank you for listening. Enjoy today's show. Hello and welcome again to the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast with myself, Errol Lawson, and my special guest today is Eric Johnson. Eric Johnson. Hello, Eric. Hi. Well, guys, Eric is the co-lead of Bethel Reading alongside his wife, Candace, and Eric is a sixth-generation minister. Eric began his ministry career as a youth pastor in Weaverville, California. He's the author of Momentum, What God Starts Never Ends, and Christ in You, Why God Trusts You More Than You Trust Yourself. He's got a great passion to see transformation take place in the lives of people, cities, and nations. Hey, Eric, thank you again for being with us today. Eric, first of all, please fill in any gaps in your bio right there and give us a glimpse into what you're up to in the world right now.
Yeah, first of all, it's great to be with you guys. As far as what else is missing, I would say I'm a proud dad of two daughters, two teenagers, and they are the pride and joy of our life, and they keep us very, very busy and entertained at the same time.
Amen.
But we love being mom and dad, as well as pastoring the church here in Reading, and just love being a part of what God's doing in this time.
Amen. Thank you. And Eric, where did it begin for you? I know being a sixth-generation minister, I might think that you grew up and you were sort of born into ministry, but how did you know you were called into ministry, and when did that happen for you? That shift.
Yeah, I mean, just, being in an environment where there's, lack of a better word, so much momentum in a very certain direction with just, sixth generation on my dad's side, fourth generation on my mom's side.
Wow.
And so my journey was a little bit different. It was more of probably not determining if I was called to ministry, but more just confirming that that's what burns in my heart. I think when you're raised in an environment like this, all signs point to a certain direction naturally. There was no pressure from mom and dad. There was no pressure from family at all. Our family is really designed. My upbringing was very much designed on what's your dream, what do you want to do, and just very, very supportive. So for me, it was no pressure to be in ministry or leadership. It was more of just confirming, is this what burns in my heart? And so I think my process was more along those lines of just like, yep, this is what I'm passionate about, and I want to give my life to this.
Was there a turning point for you, or maybe you're heading in one direction in your leadership journey and something happened, maybe a light bulb of some sort of revelation moment that was distinctive for you?
Yeah, I think so. When I was 19, my entire life up until then, I'm very passionate about playing sports, and baseball was something that I really had kind of said, I want to give my life to the game and just go as far as I can go. And I was playing college ball, and in that season, I noticed my heart was changing, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And I had a shoulder injury, just my shoulder was worn out from playing a lot, from throwing. And so long story short, I went to the doctor, physical therapy, sat down with my coach, and he said, why don't we redshirt you for your first year and, save a year of eligibility of playing.
What does redshirt mean?
Redshirt means basically you're only allowed to play 4 years of college baseball. Okay. So redshirt basically, it doesn't count.
Okay.
So you don't waste a year sitting on the bench because of an injury. So you just redshirt it.
Okay.
It's just kind of a workaround. And so because I had a little injury and it wasn't going away, he said, why don't we just not count this year and redshirt it? And for some reason, then and there, I knew that that was it for me. That was the end of me pursuing baseball. And so I remember walking out of the coach's office, walking back to my car, and I thought, okay, I think everything just changed. And that was kind of a big turning point for me. I was never avoiding being in ministry. I was never avoiding being in leadership, but the direction definitely changed that day.
And how many years have you been in ministry or in leadership now, would you say?
About 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what's the biggest challenge that you say you'd faced in that? I'm sure there've been many challenges, of course, but if there's a story about one of your biggest challenges.
Oh, man. Biggest challenge is probably just our environment here is extremely dynamic and diverse as far as we have just a lot of stuff going on locally, nationally, and internationally. So I think the biggest challenge is continuing to do that really well. I know that's very broad and vague, but I think it's a great fun challenge, but it is a very real challenge of how do we do this really well. And we're a very strong local church that has a very strong outward focus, and because of that, we have people that come in from all over the world, all day, every day, all year long. And so just making sure we have a strong local body as well as doing a good job of stewarding what God has called on the house of people coming in from all over the world all the time. So it's kind of like having guests at your house all year.
So what makes that difficult to do? What within that makes it hard?
Well, the example that we use would be, kind of like, you have your own house, you have your kids, and you're raising your kids, you're doing life really well. Then every time you serve a meal, that someone's at the front door asking if they could eat with you. And it's not a bad thing at all. We are extremely honored and no complaints whatsoever. But it is a real dynamic of, okay, how do we do our job of feeding the nations, as well as making sure our kids have their, if you will, time with mom and dad. And so the dynamics of just, how much of our environment, is set up to facilitate both, and how much of our environment is set up just for the local, and how much of it geared toward people coming in from all over the world. It's a really good challenge. So it's not even there's no complaint, but it is a very real challenge.
And it's a really unique ministry, unique international, global ministry. There are not many ministries like that, and I'm sure people may look at that and think, "Wow, like I'd love for my ministry or the work that I'm doing to have that kind of impact." I know there's not a formula, but someone who's thinking that way, what advice would you give them?
I would advise them, just be faithful to what God's doing in you, and be faithful to the dream that are emerging out of you. And find the right people that buy into that, and find builders, find dreamers, get diverse on your team. And I think a lot of times, naturally, as leaders, we gather people that think like us and lead like us. And I think one of the bigger challenges for leaders, how do you gather people that aren't like you?
Tell us a bit about your current core team, right? Without having to name them necessarily, but like, how did you build that team? Like, how did it come about, that core team you have right now?
Yeah. Well, just a brief context is we inherited a pretty large environment. I mean, my wife and I have been on the team here for a long time. We've been around this environment for many years. But as far as being solely responsible now to lead the environment, we inherited a very large team. We have a pretty large staff. And so a little bit was, and we're not the classic, we're going to bring in a brand new, fresh team and just kind of get rid of everybody and start over. We didn't do that. We said, okay, so we inherited an amazing team of people.
Okay.
And then within that context, just beginning to identify, okay, who are the people within that context that we want to pull closer to help us to shape and lead where we're going from here.
Right.
So I think for that, it was just trying to get some diversity. And, like I said a minute ago, just trying not to only gather people that think like me. The other unique dynamic, my wife and I, we co-lead this environment, and it's extremely intentional. I tell people, if you call my wife the pastor's wife, then you need to call me the pastor's husband. And it's because of the approach that we've decided to take years ago. Okay. And so we're working hard to design our team that reflect both of us, not just me or just her. Okay. And so that's a unique setup. So we just look for diversity. We look for people that are obviously committed to the vision, and they can help build.
Are you seriously fired up about growing as a leader in business or church-based ministry? Are you feeling somewhat frustrated about not having realized your full potential in what you've been called to do? Could you do with someone to help you get some extra clarity or to be a sounding board for your plans and ideas? Great athletes have coaches, so do great leaders. The right leadership coach for you will result in an increased sense of clarity, direction, and purpose, dramatically increasing the results you achieve. If you're ready to step up, contact Errol to book a free, no-obligation, introductory coaching session and see whether Errol is the right coach for you. Errol takes the lessons learned from his own leadership journey and from his extensive research to help leaders and entrepreneurs to step into their biggest challenges and rise to their next level. Email admin@errollawson.com right now to schedule your call.
Looking at where you're going now ahead of you and where you've come from, I guess, how do you now define success?
Success for me primarily is, am I faithful with what the Lord has given me and what He's put in front of me? I think oftentimes as leaders, we sometimes put a finish line, out in front of us somewhere, and we don't think we're successful until we get to that finish line. Now, obviously, there is a measure of success when you arrive somewhere or you accomplish something. So I'm all about that. I have no problem with that at all. But if that is our only definition of success, then we will fail miserably, and we'll be very discontented, discouraged, because we'll be working really hard and striving really hard. And I'm all about hard work ethic. But I think the most important level of success for any leader, am I being faithful to what's in front of me and what God put on my life? If we can get our success from that, then the other measures of success are extra, not the main. Because I think Philippians 1:6 just makes it really clear to me that He began the good work in you, and He will be the one to complete it. Amen. So my job is to just be faithful.
Amen. And John Maxwell said that the secrets of success can be found in your daily routine. Typically speaking, what does the first 90 minutes of your day look like?
I smiled when I saw that question. Well, I'm not a morning person, so what I do in the first 90 minutes is nothing super special other than I'm just working hard to wake up. So first 90 minutes, of course, is getting ready for the day, and my kids, making sure they're good to go for school, cup of coffee. And
are there any of the key habits that you have that have contributed towards your success?
Say that again?
Any of the key habits that you have that have contributed towards your success?
On a normal weekday, nothing that would be like, there it is. Probably what I do after I wake up. So mid-morning, the rest of the day is where I'm a little bit more like, okay, this is what I do. On my days off, probably doing some form of devotion in the morning and something along those lines. But most of my intentional stuff is later in the day, not in the first 90 minutes, just because my brain isn't on fully.
I get you.
Yeah.
And your biggest weakness as a leader?
Well, I think my biggest weakness is also my biggest strength is I'm super responsible.
Okay.
And so what I see, what I encounter, what I come across, I instantly feel responsible for it, which is my greatest strength. I'm extremely responsible. So if I
So why
see
is that a
it,
weakness?
well, because if I don't have the authority, then it'll kill me.
Okay.
And
Right.
so,
Right. It's good.
my dance as a leader is making sure my responsibility and my authority match or line up,
Mm.
because I will naturally take responsibility for something that I can't do anything about.
What's the danger of that?
Yeah, and so it's my greatest strength, but it's also my greatest weakness. And so I just have to be, something I've really had to work hard in the last probably 5 to 8 years of just like, okay, it's not that I don't, if I see something that can't change, doesn't mean I don't care about it. It just
Yeah.
means, no, I care about it. But as far as me investing myself into it on a deep level, I have to make sure I can do something about it,
Mm.
or else I'll just wear myself out emotionally and with my time.
That's good. I think so many leaders, I think, when articulating the same way, but whether not being or being in a second chair sometimes, so to speak,
Hmm.
will feel that way, you know?
Hmm.
Is there any way that you've actually been able to deal with that or manage that? Or how do you speak to yourself about that, you know?
I think for me, it's a lot of internal talk.
Mm.
It's a lot of just reminding myself um, just those principles.
Mm.
Sometimes I don't do a good job at it, and that's where my wife is brilliant.
Mm.
She's great at giving me feedback, and a lot of it, if my indicators are when I've I've given to myself too much emotionally and mentally, is if I become short with people,
Mm.
or you know, if my anxiety jacks up really quick,
Mm.
and when I start to notice. So I've shifted away probably in the last, I don't know, 5 to 8 years, shifted away from managing my time to managing my energy.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so in that process, I just know that my emotional, mental, and obviously my physical energy is really my gauge, my best gauge to
Mm.
tell if I'm doing a good job
Mm-hmm.
with that. So
That's good.
that's my gauge.
That's great, man. And at the beginning of your journey, was there anything at all holding you back from going into leadership?
And honestly, I don't think there was. I don't think there was anything. It was more like just confirming, yeah, this is what I want to give my life to.
Mm.
I think part of it, I'm a natural leader. I naturally, if there's a void, I'll naturally step in and say, hey, hey, everyone, let's do this. Or
Mm.
so I naturally step into situations. I'm the oldest child.
Mm.
So I have that, I already have that, like, I just naturally step in.
That's great.
And so there's nothing was resisting. It was more just confirming, yep, this is what I want to do.
That's great.
That's what my journey was.
And who are your top three most significant mentors along your journey?
Probably my parents. They are my spiritual leadership as well as my biological.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't have asked for a better parent, period. And so my mom and dad are huge.
Mm.
Some of the other ones would be Chris Valentin, who he has been with my parents. He's my dad's right hand guy for the last 40 years, and
Mm.
because of that, he's known me literally my entire life.
Mm.
The other person that was really instrumental in my leadership part of my life would be Steve Backlund. He's
Mm-hmm.
another leader here in Reading, and he definitely shaped. He kind of helped to build the infrastructure internally to lead well rather than just the idea of leading well. He helped to practically just internal infrastructure, discipline. Steve was pretty instrumental for me in my 20s.
Mm. And just to dig a bit deeper into those three relationships, like, what was the best piece of advice you've gotten from each of those people?
My dad probably stewarding your heart really well and just managing your heart. See, Chris Valentin probably. That's a really good one. What is God saying?
Mm.
What is he speaking? What just what's the Lord speaking? What's he saying? And making sure you're always aware of that. for Steve Backlund, probably be intentional with people. I don't just assume, but actually be very intentional with your schedule, be intentional with how you give your time, your energy, and be intentional with people. So I think those are probably the unique ways that they have really contributed.
It's great. It's awesome, man. And we're almost done now. What's the one thing you're most fired up about right now?
I'm really excited about the future, and for several reasons. One is we have an incredible layer of young leaders emerging in our environment. And we have such a value here that, kind of my first book, as you mentioned earlier, what God starts never ends. And so we know God has started something special here. And we're excited to see that move from one generation to the next. Amen. And so I'm really, really excited to see what this next generation, what the unique thing that God put on this house, what's the expression look like in the next, 5, 10, 15 plus years. So and there's some more specific things that we're passionate about, but that honestly is what I'm really excited about, to take what the fathers and mothers have built, what they've given to us. Their ceiling is our floor. So I'm really excited about the manifestation and expression of that in the next decade or so.
Awesome. A lot of people listening right now, they're going to be either leaders or emerging leaders, and they're asking themselves, they want to be a part of the generation you're describing. What's your if you had a group, you had an audience now of that generation of young person, millennials, even younger, what's your key bit of advice or wisdom for them?
As far as the next generation of leaders moving into leadership?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because I think this next generation, because of culture, they've actually, one thing I would love to see them target is just a high level of discipline and a high level of commitment. And anything that would help to break off entitlement. I think we have a pretty strong cultural dynamic happening, in our 40s and under generation. There is a decent sense of entitlement, and it's just what it is. And so what I really like to encourage a young leader to develop a really strong level of discipline, intentionality, commitment, and really work hard to not be led by entitlement. That would be, if I was discipling young leaders right now, and that's something that I would be really encouraging them in. Because the way our world is moving, it's very high level of entitlement. It's very about me. And so I think strong leaders, if they can break out of that, would be really crucial.
That's great. Brilliant, man. And lastly, is there a book or a resource you'd recommend for a leader or entrepreneur that's listening right now?
A good leadership book probably is going to be, I think, that's tough. There's so many good ones. I'm just going to mention a couple. I've really enjoyed the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership from John Maxwell. That book continues to resonate when I haven't read it in years, but it continues to feed me. The other one is Flip Side from Flip Flippin'. And that one is a great book to get a 360-degree view on how you're affecting the people around you.
Okay.
And it helps to reveal blind spot in leadership. Those two books have been really instrumental for me when it comes to being a leader.
It's great. It's brilliant. Eric, thank you so much for your time today. I know you've got a lot of stuff on your plate, man, and I really appreciate your time today.
Absolutely.
How do you find out more about you? Is there a website? Are you on social media? Where do you go?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the ministry, ibethel.org is our main site. As far as social media, obviously Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Those are the main ways to find out about me personally.
That's awesome. Eric Johnson, thank you so much for your time today, man.
Yeah, you bet. Have a great day.
Thank you. God bless you, man.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you again for joining us today on the Rising Generation Leadership Podcast. I pray you've been inspired, you've been lifted, you've been encouraged to take your personal leadership to the next level. We really encourage you guys to just take action, make it happen, do something, start somewhere, go out and change the world in some way, big or small. Guys, if you've enjoyed the podcast today, please share with your friends, share with your loved ones, your colleagues, someone out there you think might benefit from hearing this great content. And if you want some more questions answering, you got a question, email me, Errol@errollawson.com. Or if you want a free 30 to 45 minute coaching session with myself around a leadership challenge or issue you're working on in your business, your church, or in your organization, please feel free to email me right away or get you booked in. It's Errol@errollawson.com. Thank you again for listening. Go to our iTunes page, check it out, check out the previous episodes, give us a nice review, that would be awesome. Really appreciate if you could do that for us. We really appreciate you just for being here and listening. Thank you so much. God bless you, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Rising Generation.